We're going to talk as a presentation. If you look at how we change the affordable housing issue, we are looking at you have a house but are not so big. You have a house but also have an environment. You all know what is happening now, climate action, climate change issues. So again, building should not be making us succeed. So we're trying to explain that. Kisumu has at the moment around 1.5 census. But internationally should be 2 million people. That is something you can just able to look at those demographics on how our county is able to get space to invest in terms of affordable housing. My team, I think, my colleague will introduce himself from JSA again as he handles. We learned that was cheaper because we talked about environment, poverty, and issues of money. It costs so much to transport the cement from Mombasa to here. You also produce so much at the same time. So we are trying to cut that because that is how we get back to the affordability of our housing unit. Those are just examples. If you look at what I'm showing the special needs zone, where we have a center called, I think, incubation centers, whatever you call it. The whole point is what was mentioned. You have teams, you have a developer. The county has space where you can actually house the whole industry. I think last month we had a team here that's trying to put up an industry of affordable housing. You know that I think Kwako, never knows them. I think that's trying to have the position of the county in terms of housing, everything around affordable housing. Of course, it's essential what is affordable housing. I think we've had so many explanations, and even before the end of the story, we need to agree what is affordable to us as a community. What now was being asked in others. And the community must tell us what they want, because the world right now, if you want to change, then you have to talk to the community members. If you look at the global trend at the moment, if you're talking about decentralization and acceleration, they are at every level of I think, the stakeholders. We must stay together as a team and have a circular way of handling our issues. If you want to close, can you provide the spaces? Can you provide even the technical skills? Can you even provide, you have been asked earlier that in the past, we used to build with clay and buildings, and we used to have what do you call them? I think grass houses. If you're talking about affordable housing, and you're talking about maybe, how do you call it, green buildings, because they almost go together with trying to now use but we don't raw materials. That classifies that as affordable house. The only issue is, are you comfortable living in a grass house or in a clay house or whatever it is? So those are the issues that to bring about, because by the time you're spending the amount of energy you spend in preparing the earth, or even the water and the breeze and even the prefabrics, we mentioned the values. You look at ourselves in terms of resource. If you're spending so much energy, how much do you want to produce, how much do you invest in same energy? Or if you're spending so much in industry and all those levels. That is just what we're doing as a county in terms of plans. So as a department, I come from the Department of Energy, Roads, Transport, and Public Works in the county. So all the building plans come from our end, and we are going to put in these issues mentioned in a coming process where it will become we could have these things, but not always. Even us knows the issues of what we do, good practices, they should really come out so that at least we move together. Yeah, in terms of decarbonization, I've said much of that, but the whole point is we are using the carbon footprint of the world, or you've seen all this example goes in this study. So all of us are part of the process because we live in the same world. So the solution here is how we manage the construction building. If you look at percentages, I think 23% of the pollution work comes from the housing sector. We have another, I think, somewhere. We have 23%, if you look at transports, around 27%, industries comes around. So if you miss the building, the transport around that, and the production, the raw materials, the housing, and construction sector, you talk about 80% of pollution. If you look at here now to speak, go to the money, the students in Canada, Malaysia, Uganda, not the same. When you actually tell how much you pesa kuzoona pesa, who would research now? I think that shows you have the potential of actually having our communities live in good environments. Embedded energy again is basically, how do you call that now? If you're looking at producing, let's give a simple example, so I know this is very practical. If I'm going to produce this particular model I am now, embedded energy is the total amount of energy is going to to do all the processing, transport, everything to get to the point where we have our own building. So we are saying also as well about affordability in our county. If you have like this one here, can you quantify it and know how much amount of energy was being used in everything that is in the house? That is something I'm thinking about. The other issue I just said that because I know the very late, so allow me to do the right way, kindly. Our own selection, we have the issue of cooling in the world. Now, cooling comes in different sectors, in the houses, in what we do with food. All that consumes a lot of energy. In terms of pollution, I think it's 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions comes from the cooling sector. So we have this to control. We are those are the sources we have. I know Canada reviewed this 30% NPC to 30% right now. So we're all trying to achieve that. What I was trying to explain to you, I think housing was 20%, and if you add transport energy and industry, that's 60% of the emissions. The rest is coming from agriculture. When we talk about affordable housing, we also ask because affordability must be a very practical thing. We say that if I have 30% of my income, it's giving me 2 million a month. Will I call that affordable? If your 30% is giving you 200,000, how can we segment all these things? So it's supposed to be a conversation that is giving everybody, so we get all those impacts from actually for us. So the world now with new policies, plans, where the government is going to have the relationship by between Mwezo Saba and Mwezo Tisa. This year we should have regulations around this that are now by laws that are specific to decarbonization and now green buildings. That is where we are now. I think I'm done with the opportunities. I know what I also want to say is as we know about the panel section, we are very much trying to build space for stakeholders and investors to work with us because government alone cannot build all the houses for the residents. As much as also can build this. So we're working around together, and the particular angle we're taking is communities, CSOs, governments, nationals, whatever it is, national, international side of governments must work together. Baptism in fire, that's James. That's James. He's our culture leader, he's just kind of direction. I think I'm done with the presentation, so that's mentioning our last week up to speak, Jack, you are aware of the report of the presentation, so we just going to point out the panel is supposed to unpack issues. So I think we do this, get questions that are done from around this, from the team, then the panel now talks to us. Is that okay?
That's your choice?
Yes.
I don't object. If that's the agreement, then I don't object.
If there's a question,
They make comments or questions so that then you are all...
You talk and finish.
That's okay?
Asante sana ndugu Felix. Unasema kama kuna maswali kuhusu mjadala huu unaweza kuuliza au tunaweza kuongezea au tunaweza kuitisha aongeze, alafu ndio sasa wachangie mara moja tumalize hiyo session. Anybody who wants a question? I will give 3 people chance so that they make responses and additions, then we move to another topic. Number 1, number 2. Oh, where's my number 3? Asante. Those are 3.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks Felix for your presentation. It was concise and that is very important. My question is this. Would you mind sharing with us maybe a soft copy of this? Because there's a lot of demographics that you brush out that has a lot of details. That is my request.
You had a request. No, not a request. That is good.
Asante Felix, naomba kumove nyumba kwa 71,000, sio? Sasa sio kama hiyo inaongezeka ama ni kuna title ile kwa mtaa kuna mwaka fulani kama imetimiza hiyo ama ni naendelea kwa mwaka ni namba ni hiyo. Alafu sijui katika hiyo umehesabu pia ile formal settlers kule ama ni nguvu mtoa wake ndio hiyo namba pia.
Felix, is clear?
Yes, it's okay.
Number 3.
Yes, good evening. I'm Kabayo, and I have a concern concerning the director of energy. We talk about air pollution. We are a new organization dealing with plastic waste management, and my concern is about the plastic pollution. You know, when you burn plastic, it's very much hazardous to our health and to the plants and to the environment itself. You see about the Kachok area, it was about the pollution was all over. When we talk about the rivers are being polluted with plastics. So my concern is, can we have a project, or like we are doing with plastic waste management as New Life Mission 8, which is based in Kenya. Can we have your support towards doing this air pollution or making the environment clean so that we can have a conducive environment? Thank you.
Asante sana. Unakuona mtu wa nne na nilishafunga. So huyo wa nne ni wa mwisho.
Asante sana. Mimi nikiongezea mambo ya bado kidogo, pollution bado kidogo. Tunapata kwamba kuna ile mambo zingine ambapo tunapata kama kuna waste water kutoka industrial, moshi inakwenda maji ya siwa. Kuna vile tunaweza kutengeneza kama imewekwa treatment plant. Kabla ingine kwa mzima, hawa mahali tunakuwa ndio purifier kwa kwanza. Asante.
Kwa majina naitwa Elifu Mundi, natoka Usoma Settlement. Kuna shida kidogo pale kwa watu wa Coca-Cola. Waste material zao hawatreat vilivyo. Na pia, na pili, concern the planning. Unaweza kama mimi nataka kujenga nyumba, na hiyo process ya kuja kwa county na kufanya hizi na daktari, pia cost ya hiyo planning iko high. Kama mimi mnaweza fanya aje ndio hiyo cost irudi chini, ndio mimi pia nikuwe na nyumba forever. Thank you.
Asante. Na kesho watu wa council na county watakuwa pale kwa kiwanja hasa kwa swala hilo, taratibu inayofuatwa ili watapeli wasinyakue pesa unapo taka kujenga au unapo kupanga familia shamba lako. Karibuni, maswali tumepata plus your contributions.
What should we do? Because one of the patients, so we start with the mother, we see what you have to do as a batch, and now we just want as
Asante sana. Nitazungumza leo Kiswahili na Kiingereza. I know we say about housing has to do with land, and I could clearly see some of us supplying that very land. I hope mtakuja yangu pia. Because from here I can see what you mean. Hope pia mtanipea yangu. Kwa majina Moses Mure, sijatoka kwa hii kaunti, nimesafiri kutoka Makueni. Naweza sema Matindani. It's a pleasure to be here. I work with GIZ, German Development Corporation, on an organization project called Connected Cities. And that's how I'm here, because I connect cities. And in our project, we work on 4 or 5 different focus areas. The first one is the integrated plan, and thereby we work a lot with the planners, land use, zoning, and all the things that we will be speaking about today. We also work on urban governance, and the questions are here, community engagement, and you could clearly see that when we speak about innovations around building, the community still wants to be engaged about their land, which was repossessed without compensation. So we do not care about the innovations until you address the questions. So we talk about urban governance, we talk about local economic development, because even when you talk about housing, in the end, affordability, what is that? Who affords it? You have to provide as a city and as a county, housing that is affordable by all categories of social and economic classes. Iwe mwenye milionea kuna nyumba yake, middle class kuna nyumba yake, mtu mwenye anafanya kazi pia kidogo ya kibarua kuna nyumba yake. Je, where and who eventually provides housing to our street families, to our homeless? Especially now it is flooding very much. At night it rains and it floods over. We have people that are not represented here, yet they still have to be considered that people house. Finally, we also talk about municipal work and municipal services, the questions that are coming there about waste management, water provision, energy, and that's why I'm here, transport and all that. But also generally we get involved in all works that are touching on SDGs. Now, when I was invited to this, I was coming to talk about decarbonization of built environment. First thing to say about that is that Kenya is signatory to many global protocols around environment and climate change and all that. It was mentioned, someone mentioned the Paris Agreement, and there are many. But in Kenya, we also have a commitment to reduce greenhouse emissions. We have
determined what we want to do and by how much we want to reduce. That is what Kenya has given as a commitment. So we have nationally determined contributions to greenhouse emissions, where Kenya wants to reduce about 32%, meaning up to 32% by 2030. Emissions zetu they are only up to 30%. And how we do this is first by transitioning 100% of our energy to renewable energy. If you read whatever literature, I think everybody quotes we are already on more than 90% of renewable energy as a country. The ambition is to transition up to 100%. There is the long-term low emission and development strategy, and this is a strategy by the country, number one, which aims to reduce or to improve the adoption of electric stoves up to 50% of consumers and households in urban cities. Hiyo wakazi wa miji wote wanatumia stima, si wote but nusu, up to 50% wanatumia stima kwa kuishi. Because that's the only way we can reduce carbon, which is coming from charcoal, firewood, and cooking gas. That's also coming from fossil fuels. So how do we do this is to try to transition cooking for households up to 50% in urban areas. Also the same ambition to transition cooking in hotels and restaurants up to 40% to be electric powered. Energy efficiency in industry. Makampuni yetu and factories to try to reduce to improve up to 30% energy efficiency. And then also to eliminate generators. We are still having in many institutions, many buildings, many also public institutions, generator as a backup. Generator uses diesel contributes to greenhouse emissions. So there is an ambition also to abolish the use of generators as a backup, and also replace up to 40% of coal that is used in cement manufacturing. I don't know whether in the county we have any plant that manufactures cement, but the ambition in the country is to replace 40% of that to hydrogen. And if you have been listening to conversations around renewable energy, you will have heard the word hydrogen power being mentioned a lot. So when we talk about built environment, therefore we are talking about our residences, mahali tunapoishi, and our own power consumption, but also for commercial reasons, mahali tunapofanyia kazi. Biashara, all these malls, all the universities, all the companies and industries. How can we help to reduce the carbon? Now, Kenya, I think in the energy regulations, there is a requirement that if you are an institution and you are consuming more than 180,000 kilowatts a year, you need to undertake energy audits. And within years, you must undertake energy audits. And once you get the energy audits and their recommendations, you must implement at least 50% of them within 6 months. So institutions, and 180,000 is not a lot. Universities are using that. Public institutions are using that. Malls and big companies are consuming in that country. So they are all required to undertake energy audits and implement recommendations within 6 months. All these are national aspirations, national level regulations and policy questions. But in the end, we have to bring them to the county and to the cities. So that even as Kisumu County and also Kisumu City, we have plans to transition our cooking at domestic level to 50% electricity. We have a mission to transition cooking at restaurant and institutional level to 40% and all other requirements. So this you have to consider even as you set up your buildings. We have been hearing about affordable and social housing, and the numbers are being there. We are doing 10,000, we are doing 20,000. The country wants to do 250,000 housing units in a year. How many of them are planned sustainably? How many of them are planned in a way that we shall be able to cook using electricity inside? How many of them are in terms of embedded energy are using sustainable building stock. So that we use on the amount of steel, the amount of concrete, the amount of cement which generates a lot of emissions, and we use sustainable products. He mentioned clay, and this region, I know we have a big history of building with clay, Matoto. And it's not entirely a bad thing to build in Matoto. In fact, if you go all over the world, you have to visit monuments and castles and other big historical buildings that have been there 500, 1,500, many years ago. They were built in clay, and they are still around thousands of years later. So we can still work around how to develop the clay, how to innovate around that, so that we are able to do sustainable buildings. There are questions whether you want to burn it, there are questions whether you want to stabilize it, but clay, not stabilized, not burned bricks, still is a fantastic building material. It's a question of the county. What are they doing to promote the innovations that are out there in the industry, to also work around the regulations and the building code and all that, to encourage this kind of sustainable building. But the work of the government is also to unclog the system, giving incentives to private sector and institutions that want to get involved in urban housing, but also unclog, see what which policy changes you can make to stimulate. If you want also to test your affordable or your sustainable building concept, the government that should be able to put up houses and tell you, this is what we have considered as an innovation and sustainable. Is it clay, is it using fiber and bagasse and all that? All these options are there, but the government should be the one taking leadership. When we talk about renewable energy, it's the government that should, number one, test the codes, test the requirements by adopting in their own institutions, schools, hospitals, offices, to try to see how much of it is renewable. And therefore, we work with them on this environment, on these topics, so that they can learn from other cities and other towns and municipalities across the world. How have you dealt with this question yourself as a government, but also what are other cities and governments, what have they done to promote private sector engagement and other non-government actors' engagement in the area of affordable housing, in the area of organization of built environment, so that we learn together. They are able then to adopt better policies, better strategies, and also develop better policies. So in general, housing is going to be, there is a question that was asked, whether the housing deficit is growing or declining. If you look at Kenya's population, I think we are projected to be 63 million by 2030. That means the population is increasing. So housing deficit will grow. It's also been saying that there is increasing urbanization. Previously, what was happening was rural urban migration. Nowadays, it is the urban that is coming to you. Through pollution, you get so many towns and municipalities that are coming. So, it is expected by 2030, out of currently about 59 municipalities in Kenya that have more than 25,000 residents, we shall have up to 372 municipalities in Kenya by 2030 that have a population of more than 25,000 residents. And therefore, the government has to plan for all that. Make sure that you are planning in terms of their housing, you are working with communities, housing cooperatives. I think I was going to mention one or two. The community has to be engaged, you have to organize them, they have to be supported to be involved. So that you are not only talking about the town, but also planning for the future. Houses will be planned in a way that they can generate electricity themselves and they can store electricity. If you put solar roofs, solar panels on your roof, you can generate electricity. If you install batteries, you can store electricity. If in companies you adopt heat pumps, you can do away with lighting, with using electricity through air conditioners and all that. So housing will have to embed all this. Very soon, the world is transitioning to e-mobility. I'm sure some of you have seen electric vehicles. Just as it is today, history about a manual transmission car, in the next 10, 20 years, it will be history about internal compassion in Egypt, the world will have transitioned to e-mobility. Houses will also be converted to recharging possibilities for energy that is tapped from the sky, from the sun. You will be able to charge your own car, your motorbike, and your neighbor's car in your house. The malls will be used for that. Public parking will be used for charging, and public institutions will be used for charging. So we have to think about even as a build, where is the future taking us? Energy efficiency, beautiful place where we are, big windows and all that, allowing all the light from heaven to come in, but we still shut it out with curtains and switch on the light. We will have to find a way to be efficient as institutions and as individual consumers. So, I mentioned the word housing associations and cooperatives. We do not have enough. Communities have to organize and engage in this. We have to think around public-private partnerships in all these issues around affordable housing. Because as of now, we are only talking about what the government will provide. Are the people able to afford? Is the market able to respond and support? The government has to think about these things. Government role, again, like I said, is to create an enabling environment for solutions to solve themselves. I go back to the question I started with. We are talking about our own house, but if you talk to other cities, especially in the developed world, they have dealt fairly good in the question of housing, affordable and social. They've even gone beyond the vulnerable within their communities. If today you are in a Western country and completely not able to afford your rent, either the government has to find a way to make you able to afford, or in case you are homeless, it's only by choice. Ukinyesha hivi, there is some place you can go and find accommodation. There is a place you can go and find food. We have always to think about not leaving anyone behind, and it is the responsibility of the cities to realize. We also have homeless people that are being beaten by this and that. We have people that are being beaten, homeless, and very hungry because they are not taken place. And we have to work together. So in my project, we try to share these lessons, work together with experts from other cities to address common challenges so that we are not reinventing the wheel, but borrowing good practices and also sharing the challenges we are working with, taking ideas from other city practitioners. Thank you very much. I do not have, because the other questions were more leading towards the government. I will pass on the microphone to the government.
Thank you very much, first of all, I would like to present my apologies for having been late. I was supposed to be here by 8 or 9 but I didn't manage to do so. Unfortunately, I'm here with you at the end of this session. I hope whatever little I have will be designed in regards to affordable housing, and together with the questions you just said will be helped as we go on. The first question was on let's learn my name. Let's say my name, no? Yeah, I'm an architect by profession, and I work for county government of Kisumu as a county architect. So the role of an architect in affordable housing first is to come up with designs, specifications for affordable houses. I think that's very much, it's more or less direct. And basically, that's what we do. And we don't, as architects, we don't really focus on affordable housing alone. We also look at other facilities that come with housing. And housing as a standalone industry or activity might not be as complete and comprehensive as it should be. It comes with medical facilities, comes with markets, comes with learning spaces. In other words, affordable housing should be all-encompassing. So that's why we find ourselves within this kind of setup, at least to share knowledge and information on affordable housing from architects' point of view. The first question was on the possibility of sharing this information that we presented here. That's very much possible, and the best we can do to have a quick share kind of approach. You can have your email addresses shared with friends here, so that she is able to share immediately for this session. The second question was on source of data on affordable housing. We have presented data here, demographics plus information from various sources. And our first key source was our own internal source, the Department of Urban Development, Housing, and Physical Planning, plus very many others. I think once you get this information, you'll be able to read more. Because this is just a summary of what you are able to collect. There is much more to it. If you access this information, then you'll be able to read more to what's said. There was the issue of plastic pollution. It was a little bit particular. And I would want to say that affordable housing also comes with pollution, not necessarily plastic. It comes with both organic and non-organic pollution. So the question was either to be able to support, offer support. I don't know whether this would be financial, non-financial support towards environmental conservation or preservation. We are able to provide collaborations and with consultations from county leadership for financial support that would require a little bit more lengthy discussion. But in terms of collaboration and probably passing on information on how we're supposed to take care of the environment, that we're able to do through the Department of Environment and other stakeholders that are working within the National Environmental Management concerns. I would want to tie that together with wastewater management. That was coming from one of us, my friend out there. As I said earlier, affordable housing does not really give you a kitchen to cook food, or a living room to stay, or a bedroom to rest. But affordable housing must also take care of your wastes, be it from your kitchen, be it from your toilets or ablution facilities. It has to come all together as one package. If you visit, there was an attempt of some housing schemes here in Kisumu. We have one. There was a trial by NHC towards Mamboleo on the left side. That is one. If you go there, you will find an attempt to take care of waste, be it solid waste or liquid waste. In the kind of setups that we don't have sewer, we recommend for sustainable waste management strategies like oxidation bonds. You must have heard of that. And there is also the conventional side of managing waste, where we don't have sewer, the septic tanks. That is also there. And today we have what we call biotanks or the biodigesters. Those are some of the strategies that we are using we are proposing to use in affordable that to take care of what you have as environmental management or conservation in affordable housing. There is also the issue of the costs of approving your individual private developments. For example, if I put it plainly, that came from one of us again here. There was a concern of high costs of getting approvals to develop a house. These are policy based, and there is what we call public participation. These rates, be it on trade licenses, be it on building plans approvals, they pass through the people. They pass through the people through an exercise called done through what we call SIPO. So it still boils down to you, and at that point in time, I'll also be part of you, because what affects you as a citizen or a resident of Kisumu County or any other part of this nation affects me also as a citizen, in as much as I'm also a civil servant. So it can only be changed through the policy that has been passed. It's just based on your built-up area, so and your zone. I will give you this example. We are two different plans, Plan A and Plan B, and we are both intending to develop a 3-bedroom house. I want to build mine, or Plan A wants to build his or her house somewhere in Mamboleo, for example, which is considered to be out of town, so to say. And Plan B wants to build the same layout, but now in upmarket kind of zoning, where we're talking about somewhere around Milimani or anywhere else. Or if you look at Nairobi setup, one in Karen and another one in
is something that we need to be alive to. If the court rule that tupewe habari katika kila level ya Kisumu County is it available on the website? I'm going to seek for information. So way of engaging was it's about we need to have that discourse. Kila mama alituambia kuwa we need to engage, we need to be consulted, but this is not a public land. In here there are investors who want to invest. Generally kupanda lakini ataelezea kwa haki ambayo kama ni public. Baksan is a private party. Iko na majina private according to our research. But still on the very well, and we have to work outside the day, but at the end of the day, what do? We must give a solution. And lastly, I think it's important that part of involving the key stakeholders, each and mental health, this is really key. Let's have a session on mental health. Both to wale wapangaji ambao wamepewa kwa kesho unafaa kupave ways, kuepitiwa, kupisha, mradi kuendelee. Mentally, kidogo mwanza kuogopa, sio? So hii session inaweza kuongea mental health. How do you go about it? And Kimalizia, I don't know how it is done, but in Mombasa, the developer won the tender, so to speak. Hiyo the billion alichakusanya, alikuwa anaenda dump into another land bila kujali. So developmental awareness is really key. We need to check on this developer. So I expect one of our website in Kisumu kuwa developer, makasema kwa developer ni JB. Addressing the planning the we have that come up now, we have our to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think a number of things that appeal there wanted me to speak about how we discuss ideas. But I'll give my perspectives on a few, especially arising from the questions and comments earlier on. There was an issue about participation of the residents, especially those who are displaced from the development to take place. During the negotiation between the developers, the national government, the county government, and so on and so forth. What will happen to them when they are displaced and after the project is finished, so that we do not face the situation that probably the Baksan, the Makasebo, and other displaced residents are faced. I think it is upon residents to engage. So long as you're not on the table, no one will listen to you. So it is important that you organize yourself and you write to the county governments, because a number of these projects that are taking place are going to take place on public land that are owned by counties. So engage the county that we hear that there is a program on affordable housing that is coming up. We want to know what it is all about. Give us the information. We want to know your engagement with the national government and with the developer. And we want to know what our stake is. Because you have a stake. One as a citizen, and two as the people who have been staying there. And you have rights that can be protected even though it's public land. And that line is that you have right to housing. And courts have pronounced themselves of the right to housing, especially for those who have settled on public land, whether allowed or not allowed for a long period of time. So engagement is the most important thing. We were chatting with Leo and suggesting that this engagement should lead to a pre-project agreement. There should be a very clear agreement that we are 240 residents. We want to put up affordable housing. The question is affordable housing for who? If we are part of the people being targeted, can we be assured that the framework that is being put in place is a framework that we will afford in terms of the cost, and that will give us time to come in, but at the same time it's the kind of housing that we need. The other issue that arose was the issue of Kanyakwa and Kogoni. I think Kanyakwa is an old issue. Unfortunately, it's an issue that has never been given sufficient time, and we have refused to listen to Kanyakwa. Every time they rise up to raise their issues, we dismiss them and say that Kanyakwa people who are compensated, they have no claim. Isn't it? Now, I have taken the last 3 years working with elders and other stakeholders in Kanyakwa to try and find out the information, the truth. And the reality is that even where we sit today was part of Kanyakwa land. And that we have from government records, from the archives, dug out Kanyakwa sending petitions to what was called the Kenya Land Commission in as early as 1920s and I think to 1930s, complaining about being displaced from this part of the town to Kibuye. When they were taken to Kibuye, then there was an issue that for the ground, and the ground was like some demigod somewhere. For the ground to recognize you as being in this land, you need to accept this certificate. So they accept the certificate. Those certificates ended up being TOS. You know what TOS are? Temporary letter of accommodation. And after 2 years, they were then displaced from around Kibuye to the Kondere, Manyata, and the place Lugosi, Bunga, and the current Kanyakwa. So as people are fighting for independence, Kanyakwa people records show that they were actively complaining about historical injustices during the colonial times. But then what happened is that immediately after independence, rather than the independent government discussing their concern, the independent government started discussing the issue about expansion of the municipality. Okay? And our commission called the Good Commission was set in place. I'm giving this so that I put in perspective the interests of Kanyakwa. The Good Commission went round and then thereafter produced a report which Kanyakwa protested on. Because they said, we do not want to be part of the municipality if being part of the municipality means you are going to interfere with our livelihoods and you are going to displace us. They were sure, and that is on record, that although the municipality boundaries would be expanded, no one would interfere with their ways of lives. The government would just assist with regard to planning and infrastructure. Okay? But that was as early as around 1972. In 1976, there was a prize at the Gazette Notice number 3400 in 1976 was issued, giving an intention to set apart. As you know, that land was still then a trust land. It had not been adjudicated. So it was being held by the county council on behalf of Kanyakwa. Then what had happened is the government issued an intention to set apart the land for government purposes of industries and housing. Okay? The law then, the Trust and Act, provided that the government could set apart land, and by doing a Gazette notice indicating that the government had intention, Then an assessment and valuation had to be done about the interests that the people who are living there had. And then thereafter, the money would be deposited by the treasury at the DC's office. And then after that, a second gazette notice would be issued, which was the gazette notice that would set apart the land. So when the second gazette notice is issued, the interest that in that land expire. From our 3 years of investigation and research, there is no second gazette notice. Okay? So in actual sense, what existed was an intention to set apart Kenyakwara land, but that land was never set apart. We have case law from I think Malindi and other places where the government had indicated intention to set apart land, but never issued the second gazette notice, and the land was allocated the way the Kenyakwara land has been allocated, and courts have ordered that those lands go back to the county governments for the benefit of the people who are supposed to be resident in those areas. Okay? So that is one problem that in Kenyakwara that courts may need to interpret. So what happens if that land is not lawfully set apart? Secondly, the land was set apart for government purposes, for housing and industries. If you go to Kenyakwara, how many industries do you find in Kenyakwara? Almost nil, isn't it? And how many government houses do you find in Kenyakwara? Probably the nearest government housing is what the National Housing Corporation is doing there, isn't it? So therefore means that those two purposes for which Kenyakwara land and over 400 hectares of land was set apart were never achieved. The law then say, provided that if you set apart land and the purpose for which it was set apart is no longer relevant, or it has been used for that purpose, and the land is no longer useful to the government for its purposes, the land has reverted back to the county council for the benefit of the people who are staying there. So the land stayed vacant until 1990. And then in 1990, rather than returning it back to the people of Kenyakwara, that was the municipality period, somebody in government decided to use it to play politics. So if you look, allocations were then made, and if you look at the allocations, you will realize that there were ministers, MPs, Kanu leaders, police officers, army officers, provincial administration officers, and so on. And those records are there. Then our MPs in 1992, who are made in MPs, went to parliament in 1993 and complained. And all of them were given certain pieces of land, and they went quiet. Okay? We have answered where then MPs, some of them public, very senior public officials right now, spoken in parliament about complaining that I've been given only 4 acres, but so and so is in Kanu was given 17 acres. Why the discrimination? But they didn't talk about the people of Kenyakwara. Okay? Now, the people who are given land were not able to settle on the land because of hostility from the Kenyakwara people. And what they did is that they were directed to National Bank. And most of them went to National Bank and took loans that they never paid. So most of those titles were National Bank. So they never developed the plots. In 2010, the Municipal Council purported to have nullified those leases that were given by the Commission on Lands and issued over 30,000 letters of allocation. Subdivided that land into small percent. Those letters of allocation were given to those close to powers that be in the Municipal Council at that time. Not Kenyakwara people. Okay? And then the National Land Commission, I think, was formed immediately thereafter, around 2011. The National Land Commission then issued a press statement and directed that they did not recognize the Municipal Council allocations, but they recognized the original leases of 1990. Okay? So that is, so we have municipal, that's the crisis of land that we're talking about, especially when we're living in the housing. So what then happened? The people who got allocations from municipal council, majority of them were not intending to build. But because they were politically connected to, they then sold those letters of allocations to various people. Some of them went and built. Okay? A few people came and settled. So we have a crisis. We have the original people. We have the government purpose that was never met. We have the 1990 allocations. We have the 2010 letters of allocation. And then when the National Commission was pressed, I think around 2016, to make a decision in this issue, it decided to form a task force in conjunction with the county government. This task force has been going around the issue. At least they have recognized that there was a problem. And they were very careful with their words. They never recognized that it was unlawful. They said there was a problem. They engaged the problem was a problem of compensation. And they are looking at it, but I do not see an end to it. So what are we doing with the Kanyagwa people? We have done a petition that we are filing in January. And the petition is basically asking that the court to declare that there was no setting apart of that land. And that land should go back to the Kanyagwa people. And that the people who have invested in that land should go back to the person who gave them the land to compensate them. Because courts have made such decisions elsewhere. It's a crisis, isn't it? And it is possible that that might not happen. But if it cannot happen, then they need to compensate those people at the market rate. I'm saying this because the people of Kanyagwa are scattered everywhere. They were never settled anywhere. But if they were displaced for the purpose of provision of housing, why were they not considered for that housing? Okay? So these are some of the problems that probably, when you're dealing with affordable housing, you need to ask yourself, when people are being evicted in Sarehe, in what do you call that? Backstore and so on and so forth. Who takes control of that land? Who will finally settle on that land? Where are the interests of the poor who are being displaced? It's a question that the civil society needs to continue discussing and then actively engage the government around. Now, I think I've taken a long because I needed to project. I'm just finishing. And there was the issue of I think the other issues have been discussed. The issue of access to information is something that you need to. The law exists. We are not just utilizing it. We have Article 35. Then we have access to information acts. And when you write to an entity, they should give you that information. If they refuse to give you that information, you should be able to go to court. But a number of us do not do that. Please let us try and use those instruments. And for the people in Kisumu where we have difficulty, come, let's try. We push them on certain things. I just wrote a letter to them with the evaluation report. You will hear that a new evaluation report has been published. And I'm saying this knowing very well that we have senior county government officers with us. I wrote a letter to the county secretary telling them that in 2021, the High Court declared, they had to nullify what the county government had done in terms of preparation of evaluation law on the basis that there was no public participation. And if you look at that judgment, that the person who wants to vote is one of an activist like all of us called Obure. Some of you know Obure, isn't it? Yeah, and the court ordered that the county starts afresh by first putting in place a policy on how people would participate in the entire process. And secondly, ensuring that the public was consulted at every level of preparation of the evaluation role. And then finally, take it to the assembly and let the assembly also carry out its own public participation. What has the county done? The county has gone back to what was ratified by the courts and republished it as a new thing, held a few meetings, I think there were about 4 meetings, and declared that that is sufficient public participation. It is important that the county government takes public participation seriously and realizes that that day, I told them at the public, one of the meetings they held, and I put it in my letter, that we will go back to court. The court will stop that valuation law. But that comes at a cost to us, because the first process costed the county government 70 million. Probably the second process is costing the county another 70 million. So it is not the people in the county government that are losing, it is we, the public, who are losing that money. Isn't it? So it is important that we engage and see how we can improve, but we engage by getting information, asking information, being accepting to be called names, so long as we are able to push the youth bearers to do what we want. I finalize by apologizing to the MP for National Housing Corporation for the course of the year. He told me he will not be able to make it because of certain assignments, but probably the exhibition, the LHC team will parade. But then just to give information that according to the Housing Act, the principal implementer of housing in Kenya is the National Housing Corporation. And within the National Housing Corporation, there's a fund called the National Housing Development Fund. Questions that some of us have asked. Why was another fund being established? And there is a fund in the Act. I am sure that if this levy was housed under the National Housing Development Fund, the court would have not struck it out. But somebody decided to ignore that and try to set up something. So we are hoping that this thing will be aligned. At some point when I heard that, somebody told me that if we are to set up that fund under LAC, then we have to remove the entire. I told them that's fine. Remove us, but at least set it according to law. Okay? So probably those are discussions about appeal, whatever correction the government is going to make to ensure that the process is now constitutional is something that this coalition and boards, these are coalition probably needs to engage to trace that properly. Because if it's not done properly and it's stop again, it's the public who will lose, it's not the government losing. Because right now the government is in a crisis because they have contracts that are running. So if up to January they are not able to sort out the issue, it means that they have to do with the breach of contracts with their contractor. It is the public who will still pay that time. Asante.
Asante sana. Sijui kama Steve ungependa kufanya summary of the notice as shared by also Jane and the journalists.
Just I think what is and I think it's a very interesting case for Baxter. I think we were in Mombasa last week during the Affordable Housing Conference. We visited Baxter, and this is where the devil is in the details. The end user finance, how it is structured. You saw how the payment, how you are scheduled to pay. Did you people know that? And which financial institution that will have accepted people who are living in Baxter? Because we know how our banks behave. They'll say people who are in the informal sector, no, they are risky. So, and that's why like all banks took off. And that is where the devil is. End user finance. If the house is being built for 1.9 million, am I going to pay cash? How many people have that cash? I'm going to get a loan from which institution? Is it bank A, bank C, Am I an account holder? Can they accept me? Those are the hard realities. And those are the things that never come to the table. But we are busy building houses. But how are people going to pay for those houses? Are they going to pay by cash? Or they are going to get a loan from which institution? Those are the hard realities. End user finance, structuring. That is the most difficult. And that's the bit that I work on, working with banks, structuring those end user finance. Understanding what are the requirements for this institution. With the target client we have known is appeal. Would you accept appeal? Yes or no? Are you willing to go to that bank? What are the requirements? The bank will give you the requirements. You say yes or no. Before now, anything goes on. But if all the building goes on without answering that question, we'll just be seeing those houses looking nice, but we can never ever move near them because we will never be able to afford. So end user finance from the bank sector is a very clear case that all banks, I expected banks to have been here because those are the ones that will give money to those houses that they build. Why are they not here? That's strange to me. It will go the Paxton route.
Yeah.
So the other aspect is the informal sector. We must accept that we are in Africa and the biggest market segment is the informal sector. And when we are talking about affordable housing, I think the people in the informal sector should be at the center of it. But when we talk about affordable housing, we are looking at people who are payrolls, who are on payroll, people who are pay slips. But are people who are doing small business, where are they in the equation? Because banks will not lend to those people for long term. That's the reality. So who will lend to these people who are selling samaki, nyanya? Who are these banks? That conversation should be happening. And should be happening up front before going to the ground and breaking ground. We'll get to the same scenario that we find ourselves. Then there is the aspect you raised, the issue of rent to own. Rent to own is a very nice model that people talk about. And I can give you in Africa, I think I'm yet to see a good example of a rent to own model. I'm yet to see one. It's a nice concept. When you talk about it, looks well, the rent that you'll be paying, that's what will enable you own the house. But that is long term. Look at the house is costing 1.5 million. Somebody is paying 3,000. How long will he pay? When you add up, you add maybe somebody will pay 60 years. Then you ask, which type of funding does this person have that can be wait for 60 years? Those are the devil is in the details. Thank you.
Naomba sasa turudi upande huu
na nimwalike Daktari Ogedi ambaye atatukamilishia sehemu hii ya mwisho, na sehemu atafanya ni kuchukua kwetu tangu asubuhi hadi wa sasa. Ni nini kwako imejitokeza ambacho lazima ifuatiliwe suluhisho au mwelekeo patikane. Tumezungumzia mambo ya namna mbalimbali ya kuweka pesa ili upate mtaji. Tumezungumza kuhusu mambo ya innovation. Tumezungumza mambo za innovations. Tumezungumza tumeshirikiana experiences zetu kutokana na yale makazi zimejengwa hapo awali. So kutokana na hayo mjadala ambazo zimetokea katika hizo topics, mimi wewe tukimaliza hapa ungependa kuona iwe ni mwelekeo, na kila pendekezo tuseme hii lazima tuhusishe county government, idara fulani au national government, idara fulani au taasisi partner, private partner wa idara, alafu tutakuwa tumemaliza. Mmeona kati yetu tuko na partners wengi, kuna JIZ, tuko na housing and development, tuko na habitat for humanity, taasisi nyingi. Vipi
tunaweza shikana mkono ili yale mtakazopendekeza ziweze kupata kushughulikiwa kwa huo umoja. Karibu daktari.
Asante sana Dr. Naitwa Dr. Paulo Gedi, nafundisha hapa, kwa hivyo nawakaribisha. Tumefurahi kwamba mngeweza kufika, na tukimalizia, hatuwezi maliza hivyo, lazima tuchukue na vipengele ambavyo tunadhani ni muhimu ili tuweze kuendeleza huu mjadala mbele. Kuna njia mbili tunaweza kufuatilia. La kwanza ni kuenda section by section, hizo panels ambazo tumekuwa nazo, ama tuende individual by individual na tupatie one thing ambayo anaweza kuishikilia na angependa kuifuatilia kupitia sisi wote, ama rekodi ambapo zimeweza kufikishwa hapa. So wale ambao wanataka tuende section by section waiwe mikono. Siona mwingine. Wale ambao wanataka kila mtu aongee ile maneno ambayo yameshika waiwe mikono. Sema kasi. Maana sana. Did you understand? Let me explain in English. We can either go as per the program. Each panel has discussed a particular agenda. So we can ask you to give us the issues which you think should be taken forward. And like the Pia said, you are also at liberty to tell us who we task to follow up this issue and on which particular government office should be responsible. That is one approach we can follow. The second approach is we can ask you to just stand up. You've been sitting for too long. Give us one or two things that you think are very important to you that cannot just end today, that you need us to address. So which one do you prefer? The first or second? The first approach, we go section by section. The second approach, how many people support it? I think democracy demands that we go section by section, but I will ask you to want to say something. Please go ahead. We are going section by section. So I will read out the section, and then whoever wants to contribute will be at liberty to stand, and you will give us one or two issues that you really think should be taken forward. So the first session we had was on policy and legal framework. Who wants to contribute? Policy and legal framework, those who attended. Yes, there's somebody there and there's somebody here. Who is going to circulate the mic? There's one person there and there's one person here for policy and legal framework. You know what I'm saying? There's one person there and there's one person there. And the rapporteur is where's our rapporteur? Okay, please take note.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Sam.
Shuka tu chini kidogo.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Samuel. I'm signing from Kenya. I'm an engineering profession. In terms of policies and procedures, I think one thing that I would mention, if you look at this government that you have in place, I'm talking of the national government headed by His Excellency, they seem not to step back in terms of housing. In other words, they will do anything as long as the housing issues. So the biggest question for us is, if you look at Kenya on the outcome of the discussion that was there yesterday, it was very clear, because I actually looked at it up around midnight. Different panels discussing the outcome, and one thing that was very clear is this government will leave no stone unturned as long as the discussion of housing is taken away. My biggest worry is exploitation from the most vulnerable. How watu wa chini kuchezwa. We don't, personally I don't trust politicians. Housing is a key. They know the need is there for housing. If you look at all the data shows this need, but the end user, like this one.
Asante sana. Nitarudi huku, kuna mtu aliinua mkono mbeleni.
So you need a policy framework to protect the vulnerable. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
So na ukipata nafasi, just go straight to the point. Ni nini unataka ifanye? Kwa sasa we have explained the whole day on this. So sema it's number 1, tap. Na usiseme mingi, utamalizia wengine.
Just a brief thing. I also talk about policy myself, that my expectation is, I think the community members participate for this, something the same way. That's pretty much what gives the time for making decisions that the outside comes to, so that you don't make decisions, not for you to make a policy review, it takes time and resources so that you can be able to help people.
Policy,
Asante sana. Mine is at the moment the policy is supporting doing affordable housing on public land. But if you look at Kisumu, most of the areas like Manyata, Obunga, Bandani, they are freehold. So in other words, private land. So what are we doing to influence the policies so that it can support developing affordable houses on private land?
Asante. Apart from the policy, nafikiri policy wakati tulikuwa tunapata mchango wa team on village na other topics, ni muhimu kuchambua the current policies, kufanya audit ya hizi policies so that tuangalie kama yale zinasemekana, the new technologies, the innovations, are they captured in those policies. Ndugu Moses Mulube alizungumza wazi na vizuri kabisa kuhusu swala la decarbonization. Je, tuangalie turudi kwa policy, tuangalie kama kweli imekuwa addressed mambo kama. So something else apart from the policy, mkono ili turuke kwa jambo lingine, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, alafu tuingie kwa topic nyingine.
Asante. Straight to the point, you come to realize government at times violates and even infringes its own citizens' rights by violating the laws. So way forward, and implementing the existing laws to the latter. Number 2, people to be given the opportunity to be empowered to do self-financing through cooperatives or organizations. Thank you.
Shukrani. So that we are able also to relook at our laws na kuangalia kama tunasema serikali inavuruga haki zetu, na ni nini wanafanya chenye haiko katika sheria za kutekeleza miradi za makao, so that is addressed in the act. Asante.
Specific 2 things. Number 1, we've been guided on quite a number of instruments that ensures affordable housing realization. So my first point is that let's have a team to look at this instrument, because they range from regulatory down to physical or corporate tools. Let's have a team to look at these things, assess the gaps there is, and or any other thing that we can do. Point 2, and this goes to the next part, is that it is very clear from our session that there are gaps in relation to implementation or maybe mainstreaming of CSOs in affordable housing. So we should come up with a framework on how to ensure that there is inclusion of this CSO
in this program moving forward.
Asante. Mkono ingine niliona. Wewe alafu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, mine is just we made this our constitution to be strengthened because we have good public elected constitutional planning, but our leaders are not prepared for opponents. So it is our mandate to push for the leaders to strengthen the institutions. Because like us, from the grassroots, we really learn from the public participation, things we are ending up, things are ending up so we need the institution to be strengthened.
Asante ya kwamba kwa nini kuhusisha jamii, public participation requirement is not working. What has happened? Where is the weakness? It should be looked at. Upande hii naomba kama mnaweza kuteremka via speaker. Mkono ingine nimeona. Asante. So after her, sorry, okay.
Asante sana. Allow me each 2 minutes of our time. Ya kwanza, ningependa sana, these discussions we are not having it for the first time, not the second time. The discussions imekuwa. My wish is that all the deliberations that are made here, everybody has a stake to change them. Kindly let's have improvement so that in such a sitting next time, kama ni vizuri, the session should start with what are the achievements, what are the successes based on the previous engagements, commitments and recommendations. Tusikuwe kila siku tukimiti hivi ni shida. Are we having any improvement? I'm saying this because as Habitat for Humanity, we are planning to convene such a gathering, a national housing symposium next year in May. So because we will reach out to Kisumu County, I'm hoping that by then we will have 1, 2, 3, even if it's just community sensitization to a particular group. So let's embrace change. Another one, we didn't have a session, a plenary session for the finance, the housing finance. I've made some calculation here. It's just challenging us. Kenya has a deficit of 3 million houses. The intention is to do 250 units per year. According to the government, the cost ranges from 840,000 to 5.7 million. That is per house. So if I use the lowest value, that is 840,000 times 250,000 units per year, this gives me 210 billion. And the annual budget for our country is approximately 3.7 trillion. If the government is to construct all these units by itself through our taxes, then it means we will have a balance of 3.49 trillion that is still able to cater for other engagements. This gives me a recommendation appeal that in such a gathering we should not miss financial institutions. Because if government is really depending on other non-state department, housing institutions are very necessary. Thank you. But we are also learning as Habitat on the do's and don'ts in future for our engagements.
I hope in the May symposium in Nairobi, a lot of positives.
So let's focus on law and policy. I know there's finance coming later, and we should not spend all our time on law and policy, so we will not.
Thank you. Mine would go to, I don't know whether it's on policy or something else, but I am worried about the public land that we are targeting to use for accommodating the affordable housing. In the recent past, not so long ago, we had one of Kenyans claiming that some public land is there. Yeah? And the government has spent millions of shillings trying to do something on that land. I don't know what kind of approach we can give it to protect public land. We don't want something to happen similar to what happened in Pakistan. It's a very beautiful estate, I've seen it, but I'm shocked that it is, the title is reading someone else's name. And in other countries, people live, work, play and do everything else from the same place. So if we can lose these public lands to individuals, then it's a very big hindrance to achieving the affordable housing dreams. I don't know how we are going to handle that.
Asante sana. So can we move to the next one?
One person there, maybe we'll finish.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack, for that question. I'm thinking as an advocacy measure, because we need to have responsibilities from here and from what the has put it out from Habitat. The areas where they are targeted infrastructure development and urban renewal, why don't we go back and ask our counties, like for us in Mombasa, we go back and do an ATI and request for a inventory of public land that can inform this conversation. Kisumu do the same, Homa Bay does the same. And next time when we meet, we convene, we say this is what we got. Then we can share in a platform. Because I believe in responsibilities, and then when we come, we have work to do. So we start engaging on this is what we got in our county. This is where the gap is. Then I can form the legal teams. But this is where the challenge is that can inform policymakers moving forward. Thank you.
So most of the...
Sorry, I know you had said is the last person, but there was also an issue of economic incentives. When the director was explaining how the current developer, Laptrust and Lapland, are developing, they talked about giving land free to a certain level. He also mentioned some incentives in terms of investors, waivers and stuff like that. We would like that we encourage the county governments and even the national government that these incentives don't only go to those kind of investors, but other organizations who are willing to support the communities get such incentives so that it's available for people, to encourage people to invest in this space.
Okay, that's good. I don't know whether there's any litigation that you have foreseen, but it did come out. So if you think of anything, you can let us know. The second forum was on innovation, and here we discussed research, technology, and design. Any particular issue that you feel strongly about we should pursue moving forward? Is there a hand there?
We are calling this the whole setup of affordable housing affordable, and we are trying to fit in sustainability aspects in it. But the sustainability aspect is not really entrenched in the whole exercise. Because looking at the kind of developments we are doing, even here today in Makasembo, it's still conventional. We are still using a lot of steel, we are still using a lot of cement, with materials of very high embodied energies. It's important that we consider other materials, like in other areas. Japan is using a lot of bamboo, for example. I think there is need to entrench sustainable construction materials into our affordable housing. Otherwise, we still end up with the same conventional style of building, brick and mortar. I think that is the main thing I want to have.
One, on the innovation, I think it's high time that we start looking at the new technologies that are coming in and be able to incorporate this in the curriculums, be able to incorporate this in the learning institutions. The independent organizations can do this, but only to a certain level. For us to be able to scale this and get a widespread of adoption, then we need to start incorporating this in the learning institutions. I think Habitat mentioned where they are cooperating with TVETs, and it should be taken a step further. And I think this should be a call for action from this discussion. The other thing is that government should also play a major role in driving adoption of new technology, because government has got the capability and the capacity to do this, and I think we should find a way of lobbying or proposing policies that will allow this to go into government implementation as well. Thank you.
Asante. So engaging with the TVETs and the likes would mean also looking at their syllabus, the curriculums. And I think TI is not here. TI is already engaging, I don't know in which areas with the TVETs. So that's a proposal that they could take up very easily. George was next.
There was somebody else.
Okay, I'm George Ward. My question goes to the director.
One question, not a question.
Okay, my proposal goes to the director of the county. You did mention that there is a gap, a shortage of housing in Kisumu, and they have, which they are in the process of constructing 20,000 units, low-cost housing based on the new technologies. And then you mentioned that they go to Awasi, Aero, Katito, and other municipalities that created recently. But then, I'm asking, what is the space for the informal settlement within the Kisumu city? Because they lack infrastructural services, water, sewer, good roads, bad roads, drainages. What is the space for the informal settlement as pertains to the development of low-cost housing?
Asante. So the focus should not be so much going outside, but you're proposing that the informal settlement should really be the main target in the production of affordable housing.
I'm not really sure if you wish to do because it's happened to tell where they're supposed to go to things. So can we go to the trend or which national specific for which we came and that's national some of the securities that we operate.
Okay, so we have
one last person or two. I have two more. Then we move to the next topic.
Just a quick one. We were referred and made aware of who the owner of the land in Kenya is. That is under Article 261. And therefore, I'm proposing that we come up with approaches that can help safeguard relocation and resettlement of all those who are affected in the process of affordable housing. And I believe there was a policy to that effect, but it wasn't made. So there's a need for following that.
Asante.
Hello, my point is a bit confusing and a bit ambiguous. For I mean this, when we started with affordable houses. We have come in to jargon. What do I mean by jargon? The access to information. Access to information means what? If you will inform someone over something you wanted, you cannot inform something without something. Our journey, if you begin going to America, you will follow the way to go to America and you begin going that people are being confused. What I wanted to talk about, that is my opinion, not everybody's. I was thinking like this. A lady has talked here, Jane Wanjiru, about how to be determined. She has come far away, 200 kilometers from Nakuru, and maybe that is what I read. Some two men, you give me attention, a lady was going to wrestle a man, and then the mother of the lady said the lady will manage it, but the coach said the lady will not. Then the mother said, you only think she's strong in her legs and arms, she's stronger in her heart than a man. What do I mean? She has talked things which speak volumes. We asked a question. Affordable houses for who? It was so confusing, but after when we have talked, I've realized for those who want. If you keep on asking questions, you shall get on confused. I was thinking, you did a good thing to have stopped me. I was giving my comments. In fact, I've done it, that's what I say. We have come here for no nonsense, but a material case. For when we are being woken up, don't sleep, we will only have asked questions. When do we go to Nakuru to see the buildings? We should have started asking questions. When do we go to Mombasa in a bus with a group, those who want? God has never seen a fit to deceive you, but if intervention of intelligence. Equally, taste and any other things, not intelligence only. Let us think wide and move. You will never win an argument. Thank you so much.
Yes, the fact.
So those are the learning tricks. I think organizations, grassroots organizations,
so the next area is energy management in the built environment. Any problems? Energy management in the built environment. It is yes.
Under energy management, we propose that the county government, together with the national government, should engage with the local groups, like even the women groups, the youth groups, and even the groups that are working on the energy, the clean cook energy. Because I've realized that mostly the government does not support this group. And actually, at the end of every day, at the end of the day, you will realize that every household will be cooking. So it depends. The majority, if you look at the informal settlements, they are using either firewood or charcoal. So they emit a lot of smoke. So I think that could help in decarbonization of environmental management. Otherwise, if we can embark on how to support these groups, it will ease this work and keep our environment safe. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a good one. There's somebody else?
Okay, so there's a hand here.
Just one thing. In construction, there is consideration for green building. It's actually something that people in the construction space, including the government, are trying to champion at the moment. I think it's key that we start looking at materials that contribute in saving energy and also that do not harm the environment as much. If we keep using the same thing, we'll get the same results. We are trying to change how we build. We're trying to build better, more efficient, and we also manage energy in our built-up spaces. So again, this calls for a lot of research, a lot of consideration of new technology into this. I can attest our technology is solving a lot of energy simply by putting up those walls. So this is something that people need to start looking into.
You are just reminding me. Do we have environmental impact assessments happening as we want? Environmental impact assessments. Are they happening as we implement?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a requirement, and especially if you're using alternative technologies and all that, you have to subject this to impact assessment.
Yes, just to add on that, we also need to sensibilize the community on other sources of fuel using recycled materials by changing perceptions on, together with relevant stakeholders, on how best we can use recycling to generate energy. I'm saying this because habitat is very key when doing this recycling together with the county government. We are trying to champion even the use of briquettes that can be embraced, which are energy saving among other technologies.
Something this side and Mama here.
What I want to say is that it is high time the community to be empowered with skills, knowledge, and opportunity for self-reliance, because they are the people on the ground. These people, government, they are just talking of implementing these things, but they are hanging somewhere. But the community and the people on the ground, if they are well empowered, these things will take place.
Very practical proposal. Last person, Felix. This now I will now link to the community interaction. We are seeing the beneficiaries. Kind of think the CSOs who can help us talk to the communities. I think those of us together so that they give us this proposal which is being said. Training is again, information cooking. I think here there's a team. I think ended on that. We just talked and we need to be in the possible. So when we consider that for us the
Next section, financing models and affordable housing. I think that's where the lady was being discussed. The cooperative model, I think, touched. Who wants to contribute? There's a...
Next. 2 people, 3.
Well, thank you, and a quick one because it was more or less the closing chapter. I was keen on this because we realized that we need to come up with public-private partnerships that enables identification of relevant equity partners, especially in housing program. It is very essential. Number 2, you realize that as far much as we are talking of the new construction, there are also those old buildings that needs what in English we call house flipping. That is, you improve its status to last for a given period of time. So that also needs to be taken into consideration in relation to financing.
So which financing model? That's inclusive. Not which one it should be. Still, that's why it's again, we find its space.
Okay, my proposal, based on the presentation by Jim Jim from the Cooperative. First of all, how best can what they are doing in Nakuru be located in Kisumu? And the cooperatives, also cooperatives within Kisumu to be empowered and championed. And finally, maybe a benchmarking to be done on how they started to now where they reached, whereby you see almost 3,000 airports, they have acquired parcels of land and have built houses for the low-income people, the Mamabokas. So that is one area which also needs quite some attention, also to be done with this.
On financing models, really is working on the impact assessment. From experience, from what I've seen from the EAs that have been done in this part of the world, there's no creativity. The so-called consultants, can you stop the copying and pasting? You are actually doing an injustice. I know probably like what I will get in, but I just took time to analyze them. you will see actually the flow of how they're being done. It's a copy and paste situation. Consultants in this part of Kenya, please be creative, because they inform that particular infrastructure development. Secondly, Mr. Ndela spoke about the details about these projects. Those EIAs, an example like Pakistan is 14 acres, 12 acres, 2 acres are in private land. The EIA says the project will be done in 8.45 acres. When you took a set to visit, was that the case? How does the funding, the banks look at that? Like Equity are very keen. What is your EIA? Have you complied with all? There's a long list before they fund the finance of that particular venture. Why do I bring this? Because that was one area where the financial institutions were grappling with, because the EIAs were not very clear. So the NEMA and those who do environmental work like us, please, let's engage and learn from. And I'm happy that you brought up that it should be very clear. Let's take them and learn maybe monthly or after 2 months. What is the idea? There are so many environmental issues around. And secondly, which financing model do I think can work? As before you think of the financing, the community land aspect, can that be interrogated even faster, even further? Because most communities prefer private affairs. So how do you shift? Well, that question was asked by one of us.
Go to a bank and get financed by a bank. So, for example, we are working with a small widows group in Kisumu, and we've managed to mobilize funding for some of the houses, but some of the houses that they're building, they've mobilized themselves in the group so that they raise funds to build for the most vulnerable within the groups. So we have to start organizing ourselves. We've been part of a development group. I think there are quite a number of groups that have been mentioned here today. We start from that level. That is one level of organizing for finance. There is a model that I've seen start in Nairobi, where SACCO members come together. But now, instead of just providing land, because the traditional thing they've been doing is buying land, subdividing it, and selling it to their members. Now they're starting to develop this land. So they lend you some money to be able to get a small piece of land from what they have acquired, but also support in developing this land. So those are some of the avenues that we don't really have to break the big banks to get the big dollar, but we can still get something small out of this. And this is why we are here, to find ways of supporting the small mwananchi so that we are able to get decent housing.
Thank you. Next.
So, I think the reflections for Soweto, Kibera, Parkroad, Babstone, Penacor, and Mombasa.
Those ones,
those are the first studies.
I think that is cutting across this.
So that is the last one. So I don't think we have. So if you have any issue that has not been captured, this is your moment.
I think the proposals should go with commitments, and most of us have proposed what should be done.
Yes.
And yes, I also have a right to propose Benedict. So go ahead and go ahead. God, I'm talking about my proposal. Yeah. The Nakuru lady, I think, touched a number of us that shared because it's very practical. Real, very, very real. Something you see, something you touch. When we talk about innovations, when we talk about new technology, when we talk about decarbonization, okay, those are we hear, but we can't see. I can't see so that we understand. So is there my proposal, and I want to also propose actors that if it's possible we can join hands. Can we do a model house with incorporating all these things that we are talking about? We can do 5 model houses and say, go to Kisumu, Kaloleni, you will see, like the lady from Nakuru said, their area, Shikamo, that's cooperative. You can go and you can see their saving schools, you can see the houses that they built, you can see their security of Kenya certificates and the process documented. So that is my proposal, and my brother Moses, my brother over there, we can join hands to do some money. The architect, county architect is here, and the department can be part of this so that we have something that people can come learn from. You see, when you talk about it, it sounds good, but not very real to a common mwananchi like me. I want to see it practical, so that's my proposal.
Those are 2 proposals. Number 1 is to document or produce a documentary of the development, and number 2 is come up with a model.
Yes, what I was concluding on, sir, was that maybe for the purposes of saving on time now and also giving a good extension for those who might think of other things or reflect on other things later, you can provide maybe a number or an email where you can send.
So we are
giving other information that you not have.
So, that's a good one. Something that's...
Okay, mine is just very good, Mr. I thank you so very much, but my concern is in 2015 to 2017, you are in need of KP, Sumaban project. I think so. But this road from Pipes to Kambogo to Kachok, I don't know where that road, that construction of that road gone. Being that you are the chairperson of that project, but KUP, 5 ways to Kambogo to Kachok. Kind we need that road back because due to flood, the flood is washing us over because I'm coming from that direction. So can you follow for us so that we get that thing?
Asante. Na pia nikikuongezea mawaidha kidogo. Every year kuna public participation where you propose projects to be done, and think if you go to those public participation sessions, your community should have proposed that road. Mr. Nyamori is no longer, you said those up to 2015 or 2016? Yeah, it's many years since then, so, and you have your elected leaders, so direct it to your elected leaders.
Okay, so are we done with the proposals?
It was, if there is anything left out which is very burning, let us not go back to discussions. Time is gone.
Yeah, mine is to just to thank everybody, and my request is next time we have such sessions, as we talk about affordable housing, we also talk about land to the system. Because once anybody feels the right of the ownership of the land, we can have a good discussion.
Asante, I hope tomorrow you are still around. Tomorrow at the sports ground we have a tent where we will continue that discussion on Kenya, picking on specific cases where there are challenges, so that we address specific things, not talking also from generalities. Last person.
Yeah. I don't spoken. Right. The component of water has not been taken into consideration, and I thought the Victoria would have been here. He was also increasing water tariffs every year. And I think as people from the informal settlements, we think that should also be Nyamuri has been helping us, but I think if they went to the National Housing Board, even me as a friend don't see what they have. So we think we should take that as the CEOs. I tried doing it with the county assembly, but I was rubbish. So you see the process here. The other year it was added. The year 2023 again it has not again go back. So we need to do something as CEO so that water is right. Thank you.
We the people, we have the power. We have the leaders we elect. We live there. We must identify our issues and direct them. So that Nyamori is only volunteering to help Kisumu because he comes from this side. Sisi wenyewe, si kipindi cha serikali saidia au Mungu saidia. We must help ourselves. Get organized and push your issues. Then friends like Joshua will come in to work with you.
Thank you. I think we are done with this session. Thank you very much.
Is it possible to read out what we have agreed to work on after this symposium? And because we have contacts of everyone, and we will continue expanding this this space, so that those are the things that we want to work on until May 2024, going to Nairobi for the symposium convened by Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, thank you. So I have taken sketches, some of these ideas need to be developed. But in the first section of policy and legal framework, there were 10 proposals. Number one was to check on policies to protect exploitation of the most vulnerable in this affordable housing project problem. Number two is to influence policy to develop affordable housing in relation to private land, because much of Kisumu is actually private land, freehold. Number three, to conduct an audit to check whether what is being advertised or promoted is what is actually being implemented in terms of compliance. Is the policy and what is happening on the ground the same, including the innovations that are being discussed. Number four, what do we do about violation of laws by government? So we need to look at that violation that are happening, and then we empower citizens to finance the projects themselves, as opposed to relying on government funding or something like that. That was another suggestion. Then assess gaps in regulatory framework.
what are the gaps there. Then a framework to include CSOs in affordable housing framework program. I don't know whether there is that framework yet, but it was proposed. You can check to what extent has CSOs been included. Then to check on weaknesses of public participation, so that we can try and propose for ways to make it more effective. Then number 7, that was a proposal from the lady that we start from achievements before going to our challenges, and that is coming up in the next meeting. Then we should include financial institutions in our meetings, because so you'll find some people have started going to our areas. Then protection of public lands. So we need to know, how do you get a public land owned by a private individual? So we need to think about that much more. Then somebody talked about engaging the county government to know which areas are public land, so that we know exactly where the public land is, so you can actually monitor what's happening. Then giving, the last proposal here was that giving land free and waivers should not just be for investors. How can we think about also other beneficiaries who are beyond the private developers that the government has been focusing on? So the second issue was innovation. And innovation, we have 6 issues that came up. And the first one is that sustainability aspect is not entrenched. In other words, we are relying on, brick and mortar. We don't have any innovation happening. If you look at the buildings coming up, they're just the same as what we are used to. So there is something that needs to happen. And they mentioned that even the materials that we are using are just the normal materials. So there's no innovation really taking place. Number 2 is we need to target learning institutions and their curriculums, so that we start training people on these new technologies, so that it's easy to implement when they go to the field. Number 3, government should be the first person to adopt new technology, because they can do that through their approval. They are the ones who are actually qualifying who is coming on board. 4, why are we focusing on a higher capital? Those urban sectors that we have informal settlements. So there was that recognition that we can actually have some of these programs focusing on informal settlements. Number 5, how do we come up with approaches to safeguard eviction, relocation, and resettlement? So the people who are going to be removed from these places where the affordable housing programs are happening, how do we make sure that they're protected? Number 6, and the last one was that where can we learn best practices, and can we organize trips to those places so that we can borrow from them? And I think it's time for what I'm talking about. Okay, the third area was energy management. The first proposal was that county and national government to engage with local groups, okay? So that these local groups working on sustainable energy, alternative energy solutions can be given a chance to showcase what they have, instead of relying on charcoal and firewood, which is not environmentally friendly. Number 2, there is a green building technology available, and therefore we need to look at the materials which have been used in these buildings to conserve energy and try and incorporate that for the government programs. Number 3, we need to sensitize the community on other sources of fuel apart from what they are used to. And then the last proposal, not the last, but number 4, the last proposal in this section, is we need to empower the community so that they can be able to think for themselves locally. What can they do beyond just getting financing models. On financing models, we were advised to look at the PPP so that we know who the equity partners are in this model the government is using. Somebody proposed we can also focus on old buildings as opposed to putting out new structures. We have buildings which are lying idle. How can we renovate them so that that will be less costly? Number 3, promote housing cooperatives. Sounds like those that are happening in Nakuru. Number 4, our consultants need to be creative to not just copy-paste ideas from us, but also find out what is working. Then somebody was concerned about this aspect of community land and how public land can become private. Maybe we need to clarify what this means. Perhaps what you say is that apart from public land, we can convert public land to community land. I'm not sure what that proposal was. Then somebody talked about public land which is in short supply. So there's need to focus also on expanding this program to private land. And I think that is essentially what we began. Then number 7, how can poor mobilize into development groups so that they can raise funds if the formal banking institutions are not provide. Pio added, we can have a model constructed. What is that house that we are talking about that is innovative, that is affordable and all that? Can we come up with a team of experts who can put it together and so we can show the government this is what we're talking about? As opposed to saying it has to be affordable, it has to be innovative, but we don't have any concepts or we have not created one. And then you also talked about documenting what others have done. So you can go to areas where this is happening and document those ideas. I think last time somebody talked about Kiwaso, providing services in informal sector. That is what I captured. Thank you.
Asante, and we'll be very happy if you push that summary now, summary plus that you are going to solutions. But just five very key areas because